G'day humans, Chris Stead here. I'm on the road and today I'm at a place called Ladies Well, which is in the Chichester State Forest. Probably about an hour or so from Dungog, or maybe an hour and a half from Maitland or so. There's a campground here, it's free camping, and there's also quite a swimming hole. So I'm going to take you for a quick little tour so you can see what it's like and let you know about my experience, which has certainly been interesting so far.
Here we go now.
So like I said, you can stay here for free, and I'll take you down to the free camping sites in a sec to have a look. Probably a couple hundred metres down that way. But I guess the reason why you come here at all is because of Ladies Well. So we'll take a walk down and have a look. So it's reasonably busy with day trippers at the moment. You can see the amount of cars that are parked here. But we are in mid-January, so prime time. Now we've just been swimming here for about 2 or 3 hours having an absolute ball. Now I should precursor all this by saying that last night, and I'll explain this with the campsite, it absolutely poured. We actually got here last night, it was so monsoonal we couldn't get our tent up. So there's probably a fair bit of water coming through here normally than there would. I've seen the river come up at least a foot and then go down about half a foot so far. Yeah, you can see the watering hole here. There's a couple of spots. I can imagine when there's less water, you can go right up the river there, and I'll show you that in a second. But the jump rock here, it's super deep, like I could not touch the bottom. There's a big rope swing up here that I was jumping off before. And we also saw some crazy bastard jump right off the cliff up here. I'll show you it now. So I did see a guy jump from way up there, and down into there. And he was fine. There's a lot of water moving, and I've heard a lot of similar people saying online about people getting sucked under by currents and that. Look, we didn't encounter anything like that. Yeah, the water's moving a bit, but you can hold yourself against it. And you know, I had a 6-year-old in there. I put a life vest on a 6-year-old, but an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, and we were all sweet. You can see how amazing a spot it is, really. I'll go and show you what it looks like up the river. So as you can see, when the water wouldn't be as rushing as it is now because of the rain last night, so there's a fair few places up there you can go sit. I didn't try sliding down the water, it just seemed a little risky with the current at the moment. But a lot of people here really enjoying themselves. So just a bit further up in the parking lot at Ladies Well, you start entering the first of the three camping areas, three free camping areas that you can stay down here. Now, you can't really tell from the looks of it now, but when we procked up here last night, having driven in from Sydney, it was monsoonal rain. Like you couldn't even see as you were driving. And there was, most of the spots here were already taken. There were some available spots, but the reality of the situation was that most of it is dirt or leaf, and it was very quickly very muddy. So there's only a handful of patches. This is in early 2022. A handful of patches that had actual grass for setting up a tent. So if you're on sleeping on the roof or in a caravan, something like that, you might get away with it. But camping, much more challenging. So here's the first of the campsites, and as you can probably see, like, you start to see an idea of just how muddy it is in here. Now, obviously, if it hasn't been raining a lot, it's not going to be like that, but it's still going to be very dirty and dusty, I'd say. Not too bad for rubbish. But, you know, if there's been any rain at all, I'd say you're going to have to be one of the lucky ones to get a spot that isn't really challenging to deal with. So that's something you have to cop if you're going to try and stay here for free. Now, I'll continue around the corner here where there's more in this campground. So there's three, like I said, three campgrounds. The bottom campground, the one closest to Leesville, is called the old campground. It's down here, it's just part of it. And it wraps around the corner and there's a whole bunch of other spots. And then there's a second campground, which I can't quite recall, which is slightly up the hill. And another one that's slightly up the hill again. Now the one at the very top was effectively unusable in the rain. It was just like I almost got bogged just driving through it. And the second one was a bit better because it was a bit more leafy, but still there's a handful of spots, and I'll go film it and so you can see what they look like for yourself. But definitely a challenging place to stay after some rain. What did we do? We ended up turning around, driving back down the road for 45 minutes. It took about 40 minutes for us to get to reception to start, just so we could look at the radar and find out whether or not it was just a freak little blemish of weather or whether it was set in. Turns out it was set in. So we ended up going all the way back to a place called Camp on Allyn and staying there, which wasn't free and was a fair way back, but then we came back today and had a swim. So I'd actually, in retrospect, being that we're a family, I probably should have just done that in the first place. So you can see over there's the toilets. So a couple of drop toilets, and my little one's making good use of them. In this area they're obviously refurbishing, getting set back up, and then you can see here we start to get into some more tent areas. Feel safe here. Look, I've read a lot of stuff about, you know, big groups of people-platers having huge parties up here and so forth. Sure, it does happen a lot, but really for us, we're pretty happy to see a lot of families here. A couple of grey nomads, but mostly families. So if you get down here, you can see it's a lot nicer. Starting to see a bit of grass, but a lot of water still. And when you come around here, it's probably the nicest spot of all. So what's that? 4 or 5 minute walk down from Ladywell. This is probably the spot. And look, you know what? From monsoonal to now, it's actually pretty nice and dry down here compared to what it was when I got here last night. And there's actually some really nice spots. So if you can get in down here, you're in luck. So this is just down from where we were in the campground, where I said it was probably the nicest spot. They got another place here which it wasn't raging because of the rain last night. You can imagine it would be a really lovely swimming hole as well. You can see from the foot tracks up there, there's obviously a jump rock. If we usually jump off there, you wouldn't want to do it now, look at that. And so, let's just show you where that is. You coming up through here. You'll get an idea of how close it is to the actual camping. So you get to listen to that water, which is nice. And there you go. So if you're lucky, you could be camping right there. Right there. And I've got to admit, part of me is really disappointed by the fact that I've come back the next day and there's that much camping available. Because I would love to be camping there. But anyway, the way the cookie crumbled. Now for those of you with caravans, we've got a couple of spots here. You can maybe get, you can maybe get 4 or 5 in there if you really jammed in. Not if you had your annexes up, I guess. When we got here last night, there were a few caravans parked here, but the road in, while just like low to medium grade bump, does involve a river crossing or two. So something to keep in mind if you've got a very big, heavy caravan on the back. That's the road in from the south. Alright, so you can see here where the road splits. You've got the old campsite I was showing you before down that road. Up this road, you've got Dobby Rim, which sounds dodgy as hell, doesn't it? Anyway. Now this is where we were probably going to try and camp last night when we rocked up and it was full but raining. You can see it's a much leafier ground, but still very, very, very much mud. There's not really much doing up here in terms of grass for you to camp. So they do have bins, and up there we've got another toilet, plenty of fire pits and so forth. But the ground is what the ground is. It's a free campsite, fellas. And you can see how muddy it's got. Alright, now this is the distance down to Ladies Well from here is not very far at all. Beautiful trees. And I'll take you up to the third and final site, which is Padmillan. Okay, and here we have the third campsite, which is Padmillan or Padmay-Millan or Pardmillan or something like that. So when I came in here last night, it was just horrendous. You can see a lot muddier, a lot dirtier, not really any usable grass. It's still really nice and leafy and bushy, but and a fair bit further walk down to Ladies Well from here. Probably an extra 5-10 minutes. But yeah, still got a toilet, still got bins. I mean, it's beautiful temperature right now. But just so you can see it and know what you're getting yourself in for if you drive up here. Now, as I said, I was happy to see a lot of families up here. It wasn't like as bad as I hear it can get on things like Australia Day, where it can fill out with, I mean, like camping here would just be a nightmare, wouldn't it? Look at the mud down there, any sort of thing. This is where I came last night. Trying to find a spot that I could try and get a tent up in the rain, just was never going to happen. So you've got a couple of spots up here, but there isn't a blade of grass amongst them. Just so you know. But, beautiful place. No doubt about it. For the sake of completion, you head about 3.5-4 k's up the road. This is White Rock camping area. As you can see, pretty sparse on grass as well, but very flat. Walk in, can't park your car for the most part. Gets muddy. Beautiful area, right on the river, you can hear it probably. And finally you have the Allyn River camping area. This is about 1 kilometre up from Ladies Well. It's probably the pick of the bunch. These guys have got the spot. Flat, green, beautiful. There's a couple of spots down there, it gets a little bit muddier as you go down there, but for the most part, this is the nicest spot actually out of all of them. Wish I'd seen this last night. And there's also a little walk down there to the water, but it's obviously raging too much at the moment because we saw people walking down the lake as well. Toilets, bin, background, grass. Ew. If you get stuck for camping down at Ladies Well, on the way up to the top of Mount Allyn, there's a lot of little spots like this. You can see a little campfire here, little patch. There's plenty of these little spots. I've probably passed about 6 or 7 of them up to the top of the hill, where you can easily fit in a tent or a car with or even a trailer really. For those of you thinking of doing the Mount Allyn Lookout Drive, it's a lovely, lovely drive coming up the hill. Now it says on the sign on the way down that it's 4-wheel drive only. Look, I did an all-wheel drive Kluger, and quite frankly, I think I could have done it in a 2-wheel drive hatchback. I spoke to one of the State Forest guys, and he mentioned that if it's really, really busy and really wet, the track gets too bad. I can understand that, but it poured last night, and the drive up here was still easy as. It was easier than the road in. So I don't think I'd let that sign put you off. However, if there's cloud cover, as you can see behind me here, not much of a lookout anyway. When you get up here, you'll see this bit at the top. You can kind of get a bit of the view off there. It must be spectacular when there's no cloud. You can see a path further up here. It looks like you need to walk up there to get to a lookout. There is no lookout out there, up there. There's a few spots you can go up there and see more of the view, but in truth, your lookout is there, and you can't see a thing right now because we're above the clouds. Obviously a few people camp up here, and some of them are grubs, judging by the mess and toilet paper that I discovered. Okay guys, well there's my thoughts on Ladies Well in the Chichester State Forest, about an hour or so north of Mittagong and an hour out of Dungog, up in the Barrington Tops area. Look, as a free camping site, it's not too bad. There's a fair bit of space up here. There's bins, there's toilets, there's a killer swimming hole. The forest is beautiful. There's a few destinations to have a look at here. There's the Allyn Mountain Lookout that you can go to. There's plenty of walks, things to do. However, obviously you're taking a bit of a punt when you come up here. So, you know, as a person who was coming here with a family, a young family, 3 kids under 10, it was a little bit of a risk. I got up here, I was happy to see there were families here. I've heard stories of big groups of younger 20-year-olds and so forth having big doofs up here. You know what? I did it when I was 20, so I'm not holding it against anyone. But it's a risk that you take when you come up here. Look, there wasn't much rubbish on the ground. There's plenty of fire pits, all that kind of stuff. Like I said, the swimming hole is awesome. However, we're about 35-40 minutes away from any sort of reception or any sort of shops or anything like that. So if I was coming up here again, I don't think I'd take the punt of coming all the way up to Ladies Well and hoping that I get one of the nice grass spots, and that grass spot would be away from rowdy people. So in retrospect, I think I would take that camping site, which is a bit closer in. There's Low Stock Dam, recreational centre, there's Camp on Allyn that I'm at. There was a few little retreats and places like that we came across as well. So I'd stay a bit more central, come up here for a big day trip, make the most of it, swim in the well for a fair few hours, and then potentially go up and do a lookout and a few things like that, and then get back closer into the civilization where you can maybe grab yourself a coffee and go check out some of the other things down there. Go do a day trip to Dungog, maybe up to the Hunter Valley. There's a winery in East Gresford, I think it was. So anyway, lots to do. That's how I'd do it if I was coming back in the future. Okay guys, that's my thoughts on Ladies Well. I'm Chris Stead from Finder, and I'm back on the road.